Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And the Florida Gators have we'll say, pretty intense game tonight. They play the Tennessee Volunteers. It's in Gainesville, 7 p.m. Eastern time. I think it's on ESPN2. Gonna be a goodie. And if you are a basketball fan, if you're a Florida Gators fan and you're a Locked On Gators listener, we will go live after tonight's game. I will probably also upload this clip individually from the third segment of the show to also just, if anybody wants to care about just basketball, I'll probably upload this individually this afternoon. But the Florida Gators played last Saturday, and by last Saturday, I mean 3 days ago, against Kentucky Wildcats at Kentucky. For some reason, only playing once this year. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. But they lost in that game 106-100 in a game where Kolby Brea shot the freaking lights out. Shot 7 for 9 from 3. Brutal game. No other way to put it. That game was just killer. It felt like a kick in the nads, you know? That's how I'm going to describe it. It felt like a kick in the nads. So Kolby Brea shot lights out from 3. On top of that, on the flip side, Florida shot horribly from 3 outside of Walter Clayton and Elijah Martin. All other Gators went 1 for 10 combined from 3. So that was just horrible basketball. Terrible. Really no good. Horrible. Very bad. And they shot horribly from the free throw line. Alex Condon went 3 for 7, I believe it was, or 3 for 8. Elijah Martin, I think, went 3 for 7. And then Walter Clayton shot 9 for 12, which is a fine percentage, or 9 for 13, which is a fine percentage, but way worse than his usual 91%. And you had a game where you missed 13 free throws and you lost by 6. That feels like a real kick in the nads as well, right? So that game was just horrible. And you lost by 6 on the road against a very good Kentucky team. And I know that we talked about this right after the Kentucky game as well. Florida was getting favorable whistles in that game, but they were also doing a good job of attacking the paint and getting to the line. So, yeah, they got some favorable whistles, specifically off ball, and the Walter Clayton three-pointer. That was just a wild whistle to call, or a wild whistle to blow, but whatever. But it was a game where it felt like Florida played poorly for the most part. They executed their game plan. They just didn't execute it well. You know, they got open looks from 3, just didn't hit them. They got to the free throw line, just didn't hit them. That part felt like offensively you executed your game plan. You got the looks that you wanted. You just didn't finish there. And so we talk about that and how it felt like a kind of back-breaking game, but you lost by 6 against Kentucky, who, again, really good on the road. Hard for me to be super pissed about that one. I'm more so annoyed at just being like, if you just played a little better, just hit your free throws. If anyone else wanted to contribute from 3, you got a decent shot of winning that game. But not what happened, right? Not what happened. Tennessee is the top team in the country, number 1. And you play them tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And outside of the Illinois game, Tennessee really has not played many close games. And I bring that up to say that this was a common conversation with the Florida Gators when they went into Kentucky. And it was like, oh, well, Florida hasn't played a close game yet, right? Florida's just pummeled all of their opponents, right? And that's true, but here's the thing. Or pummeled most of their opponents. North Carolina kept it close. Outside of that, it was pretty much just whack every time. But Florida hadn't really played much competition, right? North Carolina was the best team you played. You won by 6. Fine. But every other game you played really wasn't super impressive. Tennessee, on the other hand, has played some pretty good competition. Again, Illinois is a great team, and Tennessee beat them by 2. Baylor, pretty good team. Tennessee beat them by like 15. Louisville, pretty good team. Tennessee beat the absolute crap out of them. Arkansas the other day, Tennessee beat the crap out of them, which, by the way, is Coach Cal's worst coaching decision he made, where he's like, yeah, we didn't even have a pregame shoot-around. We just kind of went into it, and a bunch of guys didn't show up, and we scored our least points allowed. I don't know what the hell possessed that man to go, we don't need a pregame shoot-around. I don't get it. But he's probably never doing that again. Just because, again, that was... I don't know how you make a decision that stupid, if we're going to be honest. As experienced as he is, that's just a stupid decision. If any coach is like, yeah, we're just not going to warm up, you should expect to get beat by 25 or whatever the hell it was that they got boat raced by, right? So, I bring that up to say, yeah, Tennessee's dominated their competition, but they've played pretty decent teams. Unlike Florida, who dominated their competition and hadn't really played much. Which, by the way, is another reason that I'm not super upset about the Kentucky loss, because that was your first true test, your first true elite basketball team that you're facing. And considering that was your first true test, it could have gone a lot worse than a 6-point loss on the road where your team didn't shoot well at all. And a bench player on Kentucky had a career day. So that's why I don't harp on it too much. I don't think this game will be nearly as points happy, we'll say, as Florida versus Kentucky was, where it was 106 to 100. I do think that you'll see a good amount of points scored, but not 106 to 100 in regulation. Yeah, I don't think it'll be that crazy. But I do think that we'll see a lot of second chance opportunities. Both of these teams are really good on the offensive glass. And that's relevant, at least, because, well, if teams play good defense and you're getting good second chance looks and second chance points, probably on putbacks, especially if you have a monster on the boards like Ruben Chinyelu, you got that. Probably going to be some points scored there where it's like, hey, you played great defense. It's just they got a board and put it back, right? Here's the thing. Florida, you need to connect on the 3-ball tonight, okay? And I don't mean Walter Clayton and Elijah Martin. I mean, another player needs to step up and make his threes, because right now Florida hasn't really had that much. Alex Condon's shooting a good percentage, but he doesn't shoot threes like that. He went, I think, 0 for 2 against Kentucky. But he's shooting good percentage, doesn't shoot threes like that. Will Richard, shooting kind of poorly from 3. He went, I think, 0 for 3 against Kentucky. Denzel Aberdeen, shooting pretty good from 3. I think he's at the 3rd highest percentage on the team, 2nd highest amongst the qualifying players. But he shot, I think, 0 for 3 against Kentucky and bricked a wide open look, like wide open. No one was even looking at him, and he just bricked it. Thomas Hawk, shooting well from 3, but doesn't have the volume behind it. It's Will Richard, right? Like, Will Richard needs to be the guy to step up, because he's going to get his looks, but he's got to connect them. You can't have I'm just going to kind of disappear in big games. You're going to be at home. It's a big game after you played poorly in a big game. You got to wake up a little bit. It's as simple as that. You got to wake up a little bit. I will say this as well. For Florida, I do think that there's a really interesting, I want to call it a possibility, but I also want to call it an opportunity here. So if you're not familiar with 2-foul participation, which those numbers are on kenpom.com, which amazing source. But if you're not familiar with 2-foul participation, that is when a player gets their 2nd foul in the first half, a lot of coaches will take them out and sit them for the rest of the first half. Okay? It's similar to in the NBA when a guy gets 2 fouls in the first quarter, 3 fouls in the second quarter. They usually sit till the end of that so that you're not basically behind the 8 ball, right? And so when it comes to 2-foul participation, so when a player gets 2 fouls in the first half, Tennessee, incredibly conservative there. They almost always bench a guy for the rest of the half. I don't know why, but when a guy gets 2 fouls in the first half, Tennessee almost always benches them. Florida, very different. Todd Golden has always said throughout the duration of his career that he's not going to use 2-foul participation, or a guy getting 2 fouls is not an auto benching, right? He's like, hey, I'm just going to trust you to not foul again for the rest of the half, but I'm going to use you, which probably the approach that I would think is the best approach. So Tennessee does not really, they're again, I was going to say they don't participate, but that feels redundant. They're very conservative with 2 foul participation. They also don't use their bench a ton. Starters play a lot for them, which for them should be a concern when we get later into the season, especially because right now those numbers are usually skewed more towards bench minutes. Because then now we're in SEC play, teams tighten up the lineup. They're playing their best guys as often as they can. And yeah, so Tennessee doesn't use their bench a ton, which to me says you don't trust your bench that much. And 2 foul participation, they're very conservative. If I'm Florida, which, yeah, I'm going to always try to do the strategy thing, get over it. If you don't like it, watch someone else. But if I'm Florida, I'm going to try to play attacking basketball early on, hopefully draw some fouls, and then you force Tennessee to go to the bench more often and earlier than they'd like to, and you try to take advantage there. And the second half is trying to maintain and build upon a lead that you will hopefully have at halftime. So that's my thought there, is try to get foul trouble early, try to then take advantage of their backups being in, and hopefully that'll help you in the second half. I mean, that would, of course, mean that their starters play a lot of the second half, but that's fine. Keep your lead. Defensively, I think the Florida Gators, there's 3 main keys here. All right. Chaz Lanier, their small forward for Tennessee, incredibly efficient scorer, one of the most efficient scorers in the country from anywhere on the court. Need to contain him. Like you need to slow him down. Whoever is going to be on him, need to slow him down whenever Denzel Aberdeen rotates in. I don't want him on Chaz Lanier. Okay? And I say that because I do want him on Zakai Ziegler. Zakai Ziegler is Tennessee's point guard, arguably the best point guard in the entire country right now. I think he's got the most assists in the country, one of the highest assist rates in the country. He's a great point guard. He is the facilitator of their offense, right? That's what he does. That's his job. Duh, he's the point guard. So he is the facilitator of the offense for Tennessee. And I think he has one of the highest offensive usage rates. So assists, shots, turnovers, whatever it is, end with him. And arguably the best point guard in the country. That's who I want Denzel Aberdeen on whenever he's in. Denzel Aberdeen's your best perimeter defender on the entire team. If you disagree, you disagree. But I think he's the best perimeter defender on the entire team. So if you have Zakai Ziegler on the court and you've got Denzel Aberdeen on the court, I want Denzel Aberdeen on Zakai Ziegler because I think that one of your key focal points needs to be every possession, stifle Zakai Ziegler early on. All right. Once he crosses half court, get on him. I don't think you need the full court press, but once he gets past half court, get on him. Get the ball out of his hands because he is the facilitator of this offense. He is the driving force behind this offense. He's the guy, right? He is your best player for Tennessee. He's the guy that's going to have the offense facilitate the offense. He's your quarterback. Get the ball out of his hands so that someone else has to try to play facilitator. If they beat you doing that, they beat you doing that. But if you get the ball out of the hands of Zakai Ziegler and you're contesting every Chaz Lanier shot, if he's making contested shots, he's making contested shots, right? We saw Dalton Connect do it last year. If you're making contested shots, you're making contested shots. And I'm not going to get mad at that. You're getting a hand up, you're getting in their way, right? Zakai Ziegler, Chaz Lanier, the guys for this Tennessee team. Also, I mentioned this earlier, both of these teams really good offensive rebounding. Florida's defense, kind of mid defensive rebounding. You need to be more active on the glass. More active on the glass, limit those second chance opportunities for Tennessee. Because Tennessee's defense, not going to lie, they're really freaking good at forcing turnovers, okay? And they're really good at forcing misses. So as far as having additional opportunities go, you're probably going to have some more turnovers than usual. Florida had 9 against Kentucky. You're probably going to have some more turnovers than usual. Tennessee's going to get their offensive possessions that way, their extra possessions that way. Make them get them that way. Don't let them get them on the offensive glass. You got to box out, find your man, box out, and play sound defense there. Sound defense, sound rebounding. Okay? Can we do that? Can we beat Tennessee? Break their hearts right now. Would love that. Thanks. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow. Talk more. Actually, we'll be back later tonight after the Florida Gators play the Tennessee Volunteers. We'll be back then to talk more Florida Gators. We will also be back tomorrow morning to talk more Florida Gators football. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.